Hello! Hi, everybody! Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another live stream where we have some very interesting stories to go over. Also, I can't go back far enough to see who did it, but I would like to thank whoever gifted memberships before the live stream started. I saw that out of the corner of my eye as I was getting ready, but I'm unable to go back far enough to see who it was. But, it was B. Brown. You guys are on top of it. Thank you so much. Thank you, B. Brown. Mwah. All right, yes, I tried to have a fun new shirt for you. I have another shirt that's brand new, and I was going to wear it, but then I was like, no, I'm going to save it for next week for some videos. We're going to have videos this week, of course, but I was like, oh, I got to make sure, I don't want to waste, like, the brand new shirt. Brand new, baby. Okay, so we have, the sun's a little bit wonky behind me today. It's, as we get to dip, one of the problems of shooting in front of a window is having to figure out how the sun's going. And so sunset is a difficult time to film, but that's just, I was waiting for 3 stories to come around. But our lead story came very early today. It was glorious, and I was like, oh, we're going to have a good time talking about this one. All right, so by the way, as always, please try to keep your questions and comments to the story at hand. At the end of each section, then I will answer your questions and comments. If you do a super chat before I get to that, I may or may not see it. I apologize if that's the case, but sometimes I can't go back far enough. As Dennis says, if you could like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that. And of course, as always, at the end of the live stream, there will be 10 minutes of Ask Me Anything. All righty. Here we go. Story number 1. Where'd it go? Boop! Oh, the blame game. What a game. I told you that this would be being played, and it's picking up speed very quickly. Yesterday, let's say, so here's my arrow. All right, why do we need to play the blame game? Well, that's because of headlines like this. This headline hit today. Why no one will get fired over Joker Folie à Deux. And people are like, what do you mean? Whoever said anything about anybody getting fired? Although I was talking to an industry friend of mine before this live stream who was like, someone should be fired. And then this headline, these are both came out today from Variety and The Hollywood Reporter. And the second one is Variety, and it says, inside the Joker Folie à Deux debacle, Todd Phillips wanted nothing to do with DC on the $200 million misfire. Oh, so the reason you have to play the blame game is that a lot of money was lost, and the DC brand has been extremely damaged. So, I've got to tell you, rarely in life, especially for high-level executives, there doesn't usually seem to be a lot of repercussions. But this is a doozy. This is a big one. So, who's going to take the fall? Whose fault is it? We were having that very discussion the last 2 days. Now, Todd Phillips was a little aggressive against Lady Gaga yesterday, saying some not very nice things about how she was throwing off his groove and stuff like that. And you're like, what? You hired Lady Gaga for her groove. So you should be like, yes, give me the groove, Gaga. Not being like, what? So, however, Warner Brothers is like, uh-oh, because of course it's their money, it's their studio, and it's their brand. So you're really having a problem here that Zaslav, Mike DeLuca, and Pam Abdi, that's those folks right here. Well, it looks like they decided they got together on Monday, and they did their, everybody knows that Warner Brothers is very aggressive at using the press for, what did they say from Real Housewives? Sniping from the side, right? They did this a lot with the Snyder Cut and the Snyder stuff, the Snyderverse. And it seems that they're using the press once again to really, I don't know if Lady Gaga needs to say anything at this point. Maybe she should wait, because it looks like the situation is taking care of itself. Because Warner Brothers, the very studio, is saying, whose fault it is? Mr. Todd Phillips. So let's talk about this situation, all right? So, first, green light. The big problem is for these two people, Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca. They are the new heads of Warner Brothers Film Division. taking over is basically for Toby Emmerich. Again, headed the film division. Walter Hamada was taken over by James Gunn and Peter Safran. So that's the new hierarchy. And this is the very first movie that they greenlit. So one would say, kind of maybe your fault a little bit. But you know what? They were just hired. They can't immediately be fired. It's very bad. And for one movie, although what a failure. Like one for the history books. This is like Ishtar levels of failure. For those of you who don't know the history of failure in film, Ishtar is probably considered like the biggest flop still to this day of all time. Although Joker 2 might be the new one. It's that bad. All right, so, I think that everybody was kind of looking at the Warner Brothers brass, and, so Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi are in particular trouble because they are the ones who greenlit this film, they oversaw it, and they're the ones who gave Todd Phillips. They said yes to Todd Phillips on all the requests that were... So who is to blame? That's such an interesting question. Let's go through it first, okay? But I think it's fascinating, like, who is to blame? The person who made the request or the demand, or the person who acquiesced to it? That, to me, is a fascinating question. All right, whoever has the better agents and attorneys, basically. Yeah, that's right. You guys are bringing up some other flops. Waterworld is another big flop. All right, so Mr. Joaquin Phoenix, I've put their salaries next to their names. I do wonder what this will mean for salaries going forward. I really do, and I have felt this for a long time, that the majority of reward salaries should be back end. I feel really strongly about that. I think that you should put your money where your mouth is, and if you deliver, you will be rewarded with tremendous back end. And that has been the case throughout Hollywood history. People have made almost sometimes, I think some actors have actually made $100 million from back end deals. So you're fine. I would not pay anybody. After this, I'd be like, I'm not paying anybody more than $10 million up front, and I'll give you a back end off the top. Remember, you always want gross, not net. Because there's never any net in Hollywood. They're like, what do you know? All the money was accounted for. Sorry. Yeah, so some of you are saying 4 to 5. Art history says 10 to 12. I don't know. It would be really hard for me after this to go up past 10. Although, how badly do I need the talent? That will always be the issue. You're really playing chicken with your talent. Like how badly do you need them? And I don't, will every studio hold the line? That's right. It's funny, Ben 10, you bring up Robert Downey Jr. and the Russos. Their salaries are insane for the upcoming films. They had better deliver. We're going to talk a little bit about some quotes from Steven Spielberg and George Lucas that my industry friend also pointed out to me that I think are pertinent to the conversation. Oh, I'm using the big words. All right, so Joaquin Phoenix got paid $20 million. I think one of the most fascinating things is they said that this movie was based entirely on an idea that was literally dreamed up by Joaquin Phoenix. That Joaquin had a dream, and it wasn't about dropping out of a film at the last minute. But Joaquin Phoenix had a dream, and it was Joker 2, which turned into a nightmare for everybody else. So I can't believe that anybody, we'll do a blame poll at the end, Doc Hayes. That's a pretty good idea. But I can't believe anybody would be like, oh, let's take the lead actor's dream and turn it into a movie. I'd be like, that's nice, Joaquin. All right, so what do the adults in the room think this movie should be about? All right, so that's ridiculous. They also served vegan sliders at the premiere, one of the articles said. I didn't even include that here, but let me tell you, I find that offensive. If you want to include vegan sliders, well, then more power to you. I love it. Maybe I'll even have one. But for everybody to have to eat a vegan food because Joaquin Phoenix is into that, it's just, I don't know. I would be having, that's just the ultimate insult. You're like, here's your crappy movie and your vegetarian slider. And you're like, what effery is this? All right, Lady Gaga. Oh, she didn't get 20. I messed them up. Ah, darn it. She got 12. Todd Phillips got 20. Ah, darn it. All right, so I'm sorry about that. That's the difference, okay? Ah, darn it. Thanks, Gareth. Oh, no, I feel bad. All right, so please note that that's the difference, all right? All right, so she got $12 million. I think Lady Gaga's looking more sympathetic by the hour. I think this is very good for her. And she got $12 million, which is pretty nice. One of the Lady Gaga fans who's been fighting with me said she wants to do a movie with Quentin Tarantino. And I was like, that's actually a pretty good idea for her. I think she'd actually be a very good fit with Quentin Tarantino. And I gotta tell you, I don't know how much Quentin Tarantino would care about Joker 2 bombing. I don't know how much he cares about that. Also, his films tend to be ensembles, so I think Lady Gaga would be fine in that kind of a group. So I think it's unlikely that a major studio would hire her at this point. You know, I'd be still very nervous about it. But I gotta say, I think the Tarantino idea is an excellent idea, and I think she'd fit very well with his aesthetic. So I think that's actually a great idea. Let's see if he does it. You know, I'd see if he can get the studio that he works with to sign on for that. She can definitely bounce back at some point, Maria. It might just take a little bit of time. You know, a Hollywood, any kind of career is a marathon overall, not a sprint. There are sprints within it, but overall it's a marathon. All right, so let's talk about Todd Phillips, who actually got $20 million. I'm so upset with myself for making a mistake here. I apologize. All right. Todd Phillips, $20 million to just really give everybody the middle finger. All right, so one of the most damning things, and really good for them, is that everybody's talking about the fact that James Gunn and Peter Safran have not backed this film. They weren't at the premiere. They didn't show up at the premiere, and they really aren't talking about it. And it was revealed that Todd Phillips refused to talk to them about what he was doing and even get their notes. He doesn't have to take them, but he wouldn't even hear them. Now, as we all know, I'm not the biggest James Gunn fan, and I have some questions about his taste issue, but I think it's undeniable that James Gunn is a comic book fan. I think it's undeniable that he reads the material, and I think it's undeniable that he comes from a good place. Just because I don't agree with where he's coming from doesn't mean that he's not, you know, he's an actor in good faith is what I would say. You know, I don't agree with his view of comic books. I don't think it's for the mainstream, but I think that he is familiar with the material, certainly more than Todd Phillips. So I think that it was a huge mistake. Also, what did I tell you just the other day? You never want to have full creative control. You take James Gunn's notes so he shares the blame. That's another reason that you take it. You know, Jordan says, why couldn't James Gunn insist? Well, unfortunately, Todd Phillips was coming off of a $1 billion movie. And so nobody was willing to say no to him. That's very much the Hollywood culture. When you have that big of a win, everybody feels, because the secret in Hollywood is that most people don't know what they're doing. They don't sample their own product. They have no idea what the audience actually wants because they're not a part of the audience. So they're always like, oh my God, what should we do? We don't know. So as soon as it looks like somebody has some idea of what should be done, they all just go, well, let's follow that person like a lemming. So that's an issue. It's a real problem in the business. And I wish they had more gutsy executives who could be like, I mean, I would do it, but I got to tell you, I don't know how that would be received in Hollywood. I think, you know, it's a business of relationships and, you know, soft no's. What is a soft no? Rupert Everett was talking about this. A soft no is where you don't actually say no, but you simply never respond. Or you just keep putting the person off. And that is something that's really big in Hollywood. Because nobody wants to say that they outrightly said no to something or someone. They always want to be like, oh, it just didn't come to fruition. We lost track of each other. Because you always want to be able to go back to that person. It's not even ghosted, Malik. You'll return their calls. You just keep saying, no, well, we're going to get there. It's a big thing in the industry. And it's something, by the way, it's a valuable tool for everybody to have in real life. I wouldn't be disparaging of the soft no. Doc Hayes, ghosting is not talking to somebody. Ghosting means like you just totally never talk to them again. This is a soft no. You don't actually say no, but everybody knows it's a no. But that's fine. You don't want an outright no because you don't want to have a bunch of no's to yourself either. So yeah, all right. So I think it would have benefited Todd Phillips, not only because I think James Gunn probably would have obviously pointed out a lot of these problems, but also then he could share the blame. But he has no one to share the blame with. I also think that Warner Brothers is doing a lot to protect Gunn and Safran. Although both of these articles both said that this makes life much more difficult for the upcoming Superman movie, this flop. And that's the truth. That's the truth. You know, it's not, by the way, often the truth is not fair. But it doesn't mean that's not still the truth. So it's unfair. It's unfair that this is such a big problem for Superman, considering that it's not the same creative teams. And it's unfair, for instance, that this was such a bad thing for Lady Gaga after House of Gucci. But that does not mean that those statements are not true. All right, so next comment. All right, bye, Gunn and Safran. They're like, get us out of here. All right, it is funny that Peter Safran occasionally shows up. We're like, one of you just said earlier he was in a closet somewhere. You're like, he's real. There he is. All right. So the next article, the next issue, was that no cost-saving measures. Todd Phillips wouldn't agree to any of them. He insisted on shooting Los Angeles. They said, hey, could we shoot in London because we would save 20%? And Todd Phillips said no, probably because he didn't want to move to London for several months. But again, I don't understand why they're not like, you have to, Todd. I just gave you $20 million. And by the way, when you go to London for these productions, the studio pays for your travel, but also your lodging. You do not have to pay to live in London. So I don't understand how anyone could say that this is a problem. All right, so Todd Phillips wouldn't even bring the budget down. He said, I'm going to do what I want to do, and you're going to pay for it. Oh, my God. All right, then, partially on the fault of Warner Brothers, there was only one additional backer. Usually, like the first Joker movie, you have additional backers coming in and doing film finance. And that way you spread some of the suffering if the film doesn't do well. However, Zazie didn't want to share the love because the first movie made $1 billion. He didn't want a lot of that going out of house to pay back the people who helped finance the films. So he only agreed on one additional backer, which means that Warner Brothers is footing more of the bill and therefore more of the loss. Their stock, by the way, is now under $8 as of this morning, which I thought was real bad. All right. I mean, they want to sell Warner Brothers, and it's looking more and more like a teardown. You're just buying the land. You're just buying the IP. You're like, I just want the IP. I'm going to just come in there and strip everybody out. All right, total creative control. Todd Phillips had total creative control over this. He wanted it, and he was given it. He did not take any notes from anyone. No one second-guessed him. To the point that when he said he didn't want test screenings, they agreed. Test screenings are where you show it for a select group of audience members, and they give you an idea of what the general public is going to say. Now, Todd Phillips' argument was that his ending would leak. Now, let me tell you, everybody in the Scoop community knew what the ending to Joker 2 was before it premiered at Venice. I have known the ending for Joker 2, although, of course, originally it was Harley who did it, not this other person. But I knew it like months in advance. Everybody knew it. So, and nobody leaked it really because, Scoopers are a responsible group. Now, if you showed it to a test audience, would it necessarily leak? Who knows? But yeah. So anyway, he insisted on no test screenings. But then he also insisted on going to Venice. And it seems that Warner Brothers is now saying, oh no, we've always supported Todd and everything he wanted to do. But the ending is to spoil. This ending is spoilery. And I was very against this movie premiering at Venice for exactly that reason. I feel bad you guys are putting super comments. I'll try and get back to them if they don't disappear. He insisted on playing this film at Venice over a month before the film hit theaters. At the time, I myself said, the ending is explosive, it will leak for sure. And it did, So I'm shocked that, for Todd Phillips to say no test screenings, but then turn around and say, I want to debut my film like a month and a half early is insane. All right? All right, so let's go on to some of the other things that are interesting here. Very, very interesting. All right, so a friend of mine, and again in the industry, I was just talking to them about this, and they said, you got to look at this Steven Spielberg and George Lucas article from 11 years ago. Look, the Guardian's like, this is an old-ass article, man, okay? So this is from the Guardian talking about a film industry implosion. This was 11 years ago, and it's very interesting because it's both true and both horribly not true, okay? So they warned students, this was a speech I think at USC, about a difficulty of getting projects into cinemas and suggesting studio cautiousness could lead to hiked ticket prices. So here's one big part of the article. This is what I snapped out for you to see, okay? Oh, I'll see you in a minute. You can see my one eye. Oh, hello. Okay. So Steven Spielberg revealed that his movie Lincoln almost went to HBO. All right. And he said you're going to find it harder and harder to get your stuff into theaters if George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are having trouble getting stuff into theaters. Oh, that's very sweet of you, Andrew. You're such a nice person to save Dwight's question. Okay. Then Steven Spielberg said, I think that the Lincolns will go away and they're going to be on television, as mine almost was. And I think that's interesting. I watched, oh, look, Dwight thanked you. I love the love in the chat. All right, so anyway, yes, for instance, I watched the recent Manhunt on Apple TV. It was brilliant. But then also they said the pathway to get into theaters is really getting smaller, all right? Where was that thing? Oh, here, right up here. Where's my arrow? I need the arrow to point it out to you. Because this is where it's really interesting. Okay, hold on. All right, arrow. Right here. There's going to be an implosion where 3 or 4, maybe even half a dozen mega budget movies are going to go crashing into the ground, and that's going to change the paradigm. Isn't that amazing? You know, I think that shows tremendous insight on the parts of Spielberg and Lucas, and they really do know the industry. That's amazing to me. But then here's a dumb comment from Steven Soderbergh, which is also very interesting, okay? They said one of the worst developments, well, this is Soderbergh's comment, one of the worst developments in filmmaking, where's my arrow, is how directors are being treated. And he says, I guess I don't understand the assumption that the director is presumptively wrong about what the audience wants or needs when they're the first audience in a way, and probably got into making movies because of being in that audience. Oh, but yet who is to blame here? It's this man, the director, because he so didn't know what everybody wanted. Some people are saying Todd Phillips is shocked that nobody got his joke. And we're like, I'm pretty sure though that your joke is at the expense of the fans of the first movie. So why would they laugh at that? Right? All right, so I thought that was fascinating. So who is truly to blame? Poll time. Let's do a poll. Who is truly to blame? Todd Phillips, WB Suits, Phillips and Suits, and then everybody who worked on the movie. Okay. By the way, anyone who's watching can vote in the poll. You don't have to be a member to vote in the poll. That's right, Steve. Polly poll. Okay. I didn't include Joaquin in there, although Mr. Magic, I guess he's part of the everybody section. I mean, Joaquin, just because actors, just so you know, actors always make stupid suggestions. When I directed a student film, I can't tell you the number of ridiculous suggestions that the actors made. For instance, my producer had to take them aside into rooms, and she's very good with her business hat, and would explain to them why their choices were just so dumb. You know, again, it was done secretly and quietly on the side, but that was kind of what we had to do. And so I can't really blame Joaquin Phoenix for being an actor. No one should listen to him. I guess don't listen to him. It's like saying, like a flower told you something. And I guess I would listen to the flower more, because I'm like, if the flower learned to speak, I guess I should listen to it. But yeah, never, it's sometimes actors become producers, and yes, you can, that's good. I guess I want to be nice about it. You should always consider an actor's suggestions. Like, I think Lady Gaga had very good instincts on the movie. So I do think you should listen to the actor, but I think you should never, it's a very well-known thing in the industry. Hey, Shamshire, thank you so much. Also, I guess an actor is very good in knowing their space. Like, just to clarify, like an actor, if an actor has ideas about their lines and their role, well then yes, I would be interested in knowing their thoughts. But when in terms of an actor having like business decisions, you're like, no, especially Joaquin Phoenix, okay? I'm like, dude, don't you walk off movies? All right. So while you guys are voting, I'll finish this up, okay? Then future, thanks, Xtina. Mwah. All right, then future of creative control. if this doesn't kill creative control, I don't know what to say. I think, again, it's like playing chicken with with who you're hiring. Because some people might say, well, I'm not going to do like if Christopher Nolan, who does say he wants total creative control, asks for it, of course you're going to give it to him. And I think who wouldn't give, I'm surprised. I guess I would have given Todd Phillips total creative control coming off of Joker. I would have. However, once I started to see the choices he was making, I'd be like, I've changed my mind. What made me change my mind? Your colossally stupid decisions. So yeah, I think there always needs to be an addendum in the contract that says, your decisions were too stupid. We had to take creative control away from you. Or there being a clause in the, especially, also maybe if somebody wants full creative control, I would say, well, then I'm definitely paying you a minimum up front, and you have to take the bulk of your salary in back end. Then there's also a famous saying in Hollywood, two famous things about how the business works, okay? You're only as good as your last movie. So obviously that's one of the problems with Joker 2 and what makes it so shocking. That Todd Phillips was incredibly powerful because of how successful the first Joker was. This was like, what, a $60 million movie that made $1 billion, that won major Oscars? That's incredible. That's why he was able to do this. And so, that's why it's so shocking that he got it so wrong when he got it so right the first time. I've seen a couple people, and some of you have brought it up, saying Bradley Cooper might have been the magic ingredient. I don't know about that. I think Bradley Cooper makes a lot of dumb decisions too. But maybe they wouldn't be this dumb, because apparently he and Bradley Cooper are no longer working together. And then here's another important thing, already set deals. All right, so Todd Phillips has lost all of his capital. Todd Phillips will never get creative control until he has another hit movie. If I were Todd Phillips' agent, I would say, dude, you got to go back to comedy because no one's going to take you in the drama section anymore. So if he went to try to make another Hangover type movie, he might get a little more leeway, to return to what works for him, typically. Although we've all been looking at his Rotten Tomatoes page the last couple of days, and he's got a lot of Rotten Tomatoes on there. But also, this is why I've told you before, you always, always, always have deals already in place before your movie opens. Sure, you're not going to get the same amount of money that you would if you had waited, but it's a security measure. For instance, many of us have wondered, why the heck is Jared Leto still in Tron? Because he has had so many flops. Just flop after flop after flop. And that's because he signed Tron a long time ago. And so I guess they feel it would be more expensive to fire him. I don't know. I like Jared. I can't speak to Jared Leto's personal life because I don't know very much about it. I know there have been some accusations, but I don't know very much about them. But I will say that as an actor, I like Jared Leto, and I've liked a lot of the projects he's done. I thought Morbius, I could understand where they were coming from on that. I thought he was great in We Crashed. I thought he was brilliant in We Crashed. And I liked House of Gucci, at least the first 2/3 of it, and I thought he did a good job in it. But I got to tell you, I wouldn't put him in Tron from a business perspective because he had so many flops. However, there's something called a pay or play deal. And sometimes a lot of big stars get that. And it's like, if they fire you, they still have to pay you. And the fact that Jared Leto is still in Tron makes me feel that he has a pay or play deal. And they're like, it's not worth it for us to pay Jared Leto $20 million to go away. It's just not worth it. It adds too much to the budget. Who the heck would we replace him with at this point? And also, Jared Leto kind of fits with the Tron aesthetic. And I appreciated him going on the ride. Jared Leto wasn't too cool to go on the Disneyland ride. And that got a lot of points with me. Just like I'll forever love Bryce Dallas Howard because she was the only person to the first D23 to wear a Disney shirt. I was like, wow, she's wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt. What a great person. All right, so let me close the poll. All right. Hold on, here it comes. All right, who is truly to blame? Oh, it's not a shutout. 43% of you feel that it's Todd Phillips, although 34% of you feel that it's Phillips and the suits are equally to blame because somebody asked for something, but yet somebody said yes to that demand. 14% of you feel it's everyone who worked on the film shares the blame, and then 7% of you feel it's just the suits. I would go with the 34%. I feel that Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi are too new I guess I watch their work more closely. Like, they're probably going to lose a little free reign for a while as well. Although, who says Zazie knows what he's doing when it comes to making movies? He comes from the world of reality TV. He purposely said he doesn't like dramas because they're too expensive. But I think that who's to blame is Todd Phillips and the Suits. Who I think will have the biggest hit is Todd Phillips. Although he can blot his tears with his $20 million. All right, question and answer time. What was Dwight's question, please? Because it disappeared from the chat. I'm ready for Dwight's question. I'm going to answer that first. Andrew James, is that Dwight's question? Okay. Sounds likely Todd made unreasonable demands as a way to get out of the movie, but surprisingly the execs caved. They should have done what Disney with M. Night on The Lady in the Water and let him walk. Do you really think that's what happened? I don't know why he would blow up his own career. And then once he saw that they were going to let him do whatever they wanted, I think that he would be like, well, then I better fix this movie. I don't think that's true. I mean, I will agree that it kind of seems that way, but it's just so self-destructive. Cutting off your own nose to spite your face. Hey, Ubi. I like your name and your avatar picture. Let's see here. Jeff Blue says, Phoenix and Phillips got what they deserved. They both said a sequel wasn't worth doing unless it had potential to be a disaster. If it didn't scare them, they weren't interested. That is pretty funny, and I do feel it very much echoes the you get what you deserve ending of the first film. Dancing Dog 60 says, Todd made Hangover 3 into a non-comedy mystery. I don't even remember that. I've blocked it out from my mind. I might rewatch the first Hangover, though, because sometimes enough time has passed, it's like, oh, a new movie. Let's see here. Ben 10, I'm really nervous about Superman 2. As I said recently, as long as it doesn't seem like Guardians of the Galaxy DC version, I think it'll get off. Hopefully it just can't seem like that. Blair Wraith says, the only positive I can see about the movie is that it does look beautiful. Oh, it does. It does, Blair. I think the cinematography is excellent. Let's see here. Thank you, Aralysis. Thank you so much. Paul says, reminds me of David Green ruining Halloween in the end. David Gordon Green. Both him and Phillips come from a comedy background and both subverted expectations in a sequel. That's an excellent comparison. But it wasn't as much money and the first film wasn't as big a hit as the first Joker. But that's true. Adam Sphere, that's a good point. The Scorsese Taxi Driver formula that Phillips so blatantly ripped off for the first movie, served him quite well. And that he was supposed to be, there was a Scorsese movie that it was said that he was drawing inspiration from with Liza Minnelli, but that was not a good movie. So you're like, why would you mimic that? Let's see here. That's right, Nacho. Elizabeth Taylor did the same for Cleopatra, although that's a pretty good movie, and she only did the same with the salary. Once they said they would pay her, which she felt was a ridiculous amount, she did her job. Sherm says, do you think this movie ruins the legacy of the first movie? Well, the first Joker's no longer in my top 3. Whatever's the latest good Batman movie is always in my top 3. Now it's the Batman. But I hope it doesn't ruin the legacy of the first film, because I think the first film is so important in what it says. I hope that in some ways, it'll still be well regarded. And, I hope it doesn't totally ruin. I think people will feel it's more really unfortunate what was done to it. MM92 says, hi Grace, this seems similar to Batman Returns, initially ridiculed after Burton was given complete creative control over his sequel. Well, I actually really love Batman Returns, so I wouldn't make that comparison. Any chance of this happening with the upcoming Batman 2? I don't think so, because, I think James Gunn is giving notes on that. I think that, Matt Reeves, he and James Gunn are getting along super well. And I also think Matt Reeves is clearly a fan of the comics. Todd Phillips is clearly not a fan of the comics, or else he never would have made this. So I think that's a big difference. And, Robert Pattinson is a huge fan of the comics, and Robert Pattinson won't sign on for something that isn't good. Crunchy Scarf says, Crunchy Scarf Deluxe, thank you, says Todd should do another low-budget documentary. Did he do one of those? Mexican Nacho, hello, says, hi Grace, would you consider making a video on why Warner Brothers sequels failed to recapture the magic? like Wonder Woman, Furiosa, Joker. They're killing their IP. Aquaman. It's hard to pinpoint, you know. I'll think about it. I think lots of creative control is one of those things. You know, Patty Jenkins got rid of Zack Snyder and his team and suffered for it greatly. You know, I think that's a big issue. It's tough. Thank you, Heather, for that comment. Everyone in Florida, please be careful. Please take care of yourselves. Please heed any warnings from the officials, local officials. I believe there are free shuttles to get you out of there. Please, you know, I think we're all thinking very much of Florida right now. Let's see here. Aaron says it was destroyed in the edit. I think, as I said, that happens a lot at Warner Brothers. The Snyder cut, the Ayer cut, the Gaga cut. Why does this keep happening? Let's see here. Kay Walton, Superman Legacy will definitely do test screenings. James Gunn is not an idiot. Astronomy 360 says, how do you think this will impact Superman? James Gunn is the director, but he's also the head of DC. How would the oversight work if there is any? I don't think there's any oversight on Superman. I think there's none. I think because who would oversee James Gunn? And that's supposed to be his wheelhouse. But let's see how he does. I have no doubt that his hardcore fans will probably like it. But the question is, can he get to the level that he needs to? And I really liked his last two Guardians projects, the Christmas special and Guardians 3. And I liked Guardians 2 enough, but I really liked Guardians 3 and the Christmas special. So I think it could be okay. But he has no oversight. If Superman fails, it'll be entirely James Gunn's fault. It'll be the same situation. Cosmic says, will this have an effect on the next Batman film and the Penguin show? No, because they're in a different space. But again, everyone's going to be looked at more closely. Everybody. At every studio, hopefully. I think, and every time they say, whoa, dude, back up. What are you giving me so many notes for? They'll say, do you want your face plastered on a Joker 2 level disaster? And they'll say, all right, let me see your notes. Devin says, Grace, will this mean that Todd Phillips is a weak director? He was not in control. No, I think this is exactly the movie that Todd Phillips set out to make. They're not going to be screening Superman soon. No way. It only recently finished filming, and James Gunn is currently, I believe, filming Peacemaker Season 2. So he has to still edit it. They won't test it. And also, there would be so many leaks. I think it'll have test screenings at some point, but it's way too early to do that. I mean, the visual effects probably aren't even done. Maisie, I'm glad you got a membership. All right, let's move on to the next story. Okay, let's move on. Oh, my goodness. Oh, no. All right, let me try and do these questions real fast, these super chats. Okay, Riley says, DC needs comics accurate Ivy as the new leading lady, just as Margot's Harley did. I think Ivy's a tough character, and I don't know if at this point people want to see her without Harley. Ramton says, I saw the movie last night and thought it was great. The only thing I didn't like was Joker not wanting to be Joker. I'm glad you liked it, Ramton, but here's the thing. You're in the vast minority. And so I think that, as I said on Movie Math, studio executives and talent can't keep looking to the few people who say, oh no, but I like what you did. And sometimes I'm one of them. But it's not, and these movies have to perform at a different level because of the amount of money that's spent on them and that they're a part of an IP. And also, Joker does not have even a good audience score. It doesn't have a good critic score. It's overwhelmingly negative for the most part. But I'm glad that you liked it, and I'm glad that you didn't let anybody hurt your enjoyment of it. Isaiah says, Gaga was underpaid. She brought her star power, music team, makeup, and fashion connections. I think there could be an argument, as I said on Movie Math, that it seems that almost the audience was almost largely entirely her. But it wasn't enough. So maybe she could be valued on a smaller budget film, under $100 million. Which I think Tarantino's films are pretty inexpensive, aren't they? And then Crunchy Scarf says, maybe big summer marketing plan for Superman. I wouldn't be surprised if Superman doesn't start advertising around the holidays. I think you might have a teaser around the holidays. James Gunn's going to be at New York Comic Con for Creature Commandos. Part of me wonders if he'll drop a little Superman something there, but I think it's still too early. Lloyd Lester says, Grace, should Warner Brothers consider selling DC as a property? No, it's too valuable to them. They'll never sell it. And also, I mean, it's too valuable in trying to resell the studio. Okay. Oh, Mystic says Superman at Brazil Comic-Con. That's a very good guess, Mystic. That's such a good guess. I'm going to put that in my notes for scheduling. Where did it go? Here we go. 1 minute. So when is Brazil Comic-Con? I have it in my notes here. Brazil Comic-Con is December 5th through the 8th. That's a great time to do it. And Brazil loves DC. I think that's a great guess. I think that's a fantastic guess. I would guess that is almost certainly true. Okay. All right, next story of the day. All right, hold on. Story number 2. Boop. All right, so Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried have signed on for a new Paul Feig movie. Paul Feig, of course, is extremely well known for his female comedies, both The Good, Bridesmaids, and The Bad, Ghostbusters. However, I believe that he is here because of A Simple Favor, which he directed, and actually a sequel's coming out. This is for Lionsgate as well, by the way. The second 2 stories of the day are both for Lionsgate Films. So Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried have both signed on for something that's a thriller. You can see the books down below there, The Housemaid, and followed by The Housemaid's Secret. Ooh! And then The Housemaid is Watching. Oh my, how tawdry. I love it. All right, so this is a series of books, and we're going to talk about how this all comes together. And this is a good example. Hey, John, this is a very good example of why projects come together the way that they do. And Carolina, you're right. Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried look very similar. So, oh, you like the books, Liam? Oh, Liam read. Who here has read these books? Has anyone read The Housemaid? Besides Liam? Oh, hey, Danny, I'm glad you made it. All right, looks like no. Oh, hey, Anna. Anna was in the stream. I want to say Anna, but it's Anna. Anna was in the stream yesterday. That's right, Ethan. They're extremely popular. They're #1 bestsellers. That's interesting. Okay, so some people have read it. Dobie's going to audible them. I like it. I like it a lot. That's how this works. They say they're going to make a movie of a book, and then some people go and they get the book. So it helps the book industry. It helps the movie industry. Hey, Danny, thanks for that. All right, and Nick says it's a decent thriller. I mean, that's not the greatest ringing endorsement, but I'll take it. All right, so they do look very much alike, so, to the point that I feel it has got to be intentional, that there must be some way in the movie where they swap places or are supposed to be mistaken for each other. So there has to be part of the reason. All right, so both of these actresses are very well liked by fans, but both of them are struggling a little bit. You know, it's fascinating to me that Glenn Powell took off like a rocket after Anyone But You. But Sydney Sweeney, even though she co-starred and co-produced in that film, she has struggled to find a path, you know, afterwards. To the point that she's doing a lot of very spicy Instagram posts. You're like, what are you selling, Sydney? And she's like, she's selling herself, duh. And then also she just signed on for some like men's bath and body product thing that everybody was talking about. They're like, what's happening here? Where she was like a bath genie, which I have to say, it's like, you know, if you're going to hire anyone to be a bath genie, Sydney Sweeney's probably a pretty good choice. Yeah, that's right, Mystic. Where is Barbarella? So she's having a hard time getting work. It's weird. I don't think Sydney Sweeney's a particularly good actress, but I don't think Glenn Powell's a very good actor. Although Glenn Powell is very good at doing one thing. When Glenn Powell does his one movie star leading man thing, he's fantastic. But for some reason, you know, I don't know, it seems like these days beefcake is more popular than cheesecake. Isn't that interesting? For so long, cheesecake drove the film industry. But beefcake is so much more popular. It sells so much. It sells in all different genres. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess it appeals to everyone. I guess the beefcake appeals to everyone. Straight guys want to look like that. They're like, how can we be the beefcake? Women like the beefcake, and the and the gay community likes the beefcake. So it's just beefcake for everybody. So for those of you who've never heard this, it's beefcake is like hot guys, and cheesecake is supposed to be hot women. You know, like physically attractive. So that's always been the slang: beefcake and cheesecake. And cheesecake used to be the dish of choice for Hollywood. But Beefcake, really pushed very hard by Marvel to begin with, has just taken off like a rocket. And I guess it just appeals. That's right, Vlad. Although I don't know. I think Vlad's comment is funny there. All right, But yeah, it's a very interesting situation. And cheesecake, I think sometimes is like offensive. Some people find it offensive, so maybe that's the problem. Okay, so Sydney Sweeney, but Sydney Sweeney is still going hardcore on cheesecake. She's like, damn it, I know somebody wants cheesecake. She's like, maybe if I serve a big enough slice of cheesecake, people will buy it. So I don't know. So far, it's not working for her, but she's still pushing it really hard. So we'll see. I think she's gone so far with cheesecake. I'd be like, I don't know. I think people are going to stop taking you seriously as an actor. But no one's taking her seriously as an actor anyway. She would be good for Black Cat for that reason, Ben 10. For like a role that needs cheesecake. That's right, Tenerife. Megan Fox was cheesecake. Although I have to say, Sydney Sweeney is more cheesecake than Megan Fox was. Sydney Sweeney is like old-fashioned cheesecake. All right. But it's not working. It's not working out for her for some reason. All right. So, just like Pamela Anderson had trouble jumping into the film industry, although Sydney Sweeney's not that bad an actress. Or is she? All right, so they're both going to star in this movie, but I think they both need this, is the point that I wanted to make. They both really need this film. So I think it's interesting. They're both kind of in the same points in their career where they have fans, but they just can't get their careers off the ground. All right, so they reflect each other not only in the way they look, but in their career ability. I actually don't think Sydney Sweeney would have been a good Hitchcock blonde at all. People don't seem to realize the Hitchcock blonde is supposed to have like an elegance to the character, to that casting. It's one of the reasons that Tippi Hedren didn't work as a Hitchcock blonde, even though she is blonde. So the Hitchcock blonde is elegant. And Sydney Sweeney is not elegant. She's, let's move on. She's not a Hitchcock blonde in any way. Okay. Paul Feig. Paul Feig is an interesting choice here. He's had such horrible flops. He's in some ways not recovered from Ghostbusters. He has not recovered from Ghostbusters at all. But I think Simple Favor is why they brought him on for this. But the real reason that this project is taking shape is books. It's all because of books. And the main reason is It Ends With Us. It Ends With Us was just a huge hit. It made so much money for such a small budget. It's funny, Dead Pixels. Florence Pugh would be a good Hitchcock blonde. I like that you guys are all picking Hitchcock blondes. Florence Pugh, I think, would work. Okay. All right. So anyway, It Ends With Us is a phenomenal hit. So I think everybody's like, not only is every actor or actress looking for an Ends With Us, but so is every studio. So it's a very easy sell right now. Often it's hard to pitch a movie just because you thought of a good idea for a movie. You have to pitch for the trends. And in fact, I have some writer friends who have told me about, writers pay attention, and I'm sure producers do as well, to what are studios looking for. So you don't just go into a studio and you pitch a great idea for a movie because they say, that does sound great, but that's not what we're looking for right now. So you want to know what the studio is looking for. And I think after It Ends With Us came out, all the studios said, we want a book movie. We want a book adaptation. But it's not a game for the faint of heart. This also reminds me a little bit of Maid. I don't know if you remember, where did Maid go? Oh, didn't I log that? Hold on. Yeah. Where is the picture? Oh, that's so bizarre that we don't see it. Oh, it's underneath it. Oh, there it is. There it is, Maid. Do you remember Maid? Maid was actually an extremely, you saw it, I don't care, Bear. But yeah, Maid was with Andy McDowell's daughter, Margaret Qualley, and it was a series on Netflix. Yeah, that's right, produced by Margot Robbie. Fabulous. Love it. If you're ever looking for something to watch, here you go. It's great. And I thought it did a good job of, portraying that kind of situation from that perspective. So this reminds me a little bit of that. But when it comes to books, Now, obviously, the ultimate book adaptation, particularly a female thriller, is Gone Girl. Ooh, that's the one you want. So these are actually, every poster that's up here is a book adaptation, including A Simple Favor. So I think the idea is that this upcoming movie, The Housemaid, would be on this level. However, here comes the problem. What if it's another Girl on the Train? Remember the Girl on the Train? That's right, Tenerife. Rosamund Pike is definitely a Hitchcock blonde. 1,000%. Very good in that fitting that mold. But remember the Girl on the Train? Disaster. Everybody said that was going to be the new Gone Girl. It was not. And then also, Woman in the Window, another horrible debacle with Amy Adams that ended up going direct to Netflix because it was so bad. But these movies right here, these movies were all greenlit because of this movie. So just like it ends with Us is creating this movie that we're talking about today, this movie was so successful that it created these movies. So, and then these movies were such big flops that the studios stopped looking for that type of movie. So that's kind of how the system works. One movie does great. Everybody says, oh, hey, we want to be in here too. You got a couple of flops. And then everybody says, oh, it sucks in here. Get out. Let's go to the next trend. And that's how Hollywood works. All right. So I think this is a pretty good package. I can see why it went to Lionsgate, not a bigger studio. Paul Feig and both, I don't know. Everybody here makes me a little nervous. I think you can expect Simple Favor type numbers. But I guess, some people would be happy with that, particularly a smaller studio like Lionsgate. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this story? Danny says Lionsgate is not a big studio. No, it's called a mini. There are the majors and the minis when it comes to studios. Majors are the major studios. There's less of them now because they keep consolidating. But Sony, Disney, Warner Brothers, Paramount. And then the minis are like Lionsgate, A24, everybody down in the second tier. All right, so let's do questions and answers. Iready says they did a scene in the first Feud season where they picked a book for a movie adaptation. Whatever happened to Baby Jane? That's right, one of the earliest, which also inspired a lot of copycat movies. Nacho Flores says Sydney cleared her schedule to be shooting season 3 of Euphoria at this time of the year, but Sam Levinson messed her up. She has this free time now because of it, Zendaya as well. That really sucks, boy. But I mean, I think it would be worse to have a bad season. Fellow Aussian, did I miss your membership thing? Let me go back here. Let me see if I can still see it. Here I go. I told you, you roll the dice if you do it earlier. Okay, I see it. Let's hope, I like the coordination between your name and your photo. Let's hope these two get along better than Anna and Blake did. Did they not get along? That's weird. Can Blake Lively not get along with anybody? That's a bad look. Anyway, Feig needs to reunite with McCarthy. It's where they both did their best work. That's great advice from Melissa McCarthy. She instead decided to go all in on her husband, which was a fatal flaw, horrible mistake. Again, I'm surprised nobody was like, I'm glad you like your husband so much, but he's not talented, Melissa. All right. Let's see here. BG says Sweeney is a good example of knowing her audience and playing into it. Personally, to me, it's a little off-putting, but she seems like a smart business lady. I do think she's a pretty smart business lady, and I do agree that it's off-putting. I think she's going to really, it would be nice if she could have a lot of female fans and male fans. If she wants to go all in on male fans, that's certainly a choice, and it's a valid choice, but it's going to limit what she can do. And I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend the current path that she's on from a business perspective. Maybe she'll prove me wrong, but I think it's a mistake. Although I don't know how much that bath company paid her. Paul Brunel says Lionsgate desperately needs a win. They do. We're going to talk about another film that they have gestating as well. That's right, Adam Sphere. Shogun was phenomenal. And the first project, as I've discussed, that has really capitalized on creating another kind of like Game of Thrones. Let's see here. Mr. Magic says that Anna and Blake did get along on A Simple Favor. Well, I'm glad you set the record straight. Leo says Sydney Sweeney should fire her PR team. I think that's not a bad idea. I think that, the picture that's being painted of her in the press and on social media is not ideal. All right. Okay, I think we're ready for the next story. Okay, next story of the day. Hold on. All right. Let me get my arrow in place. Third story of the day. Boom, baby. Stahelski. All right, Chad Stahelski. So apparently they flipped on the computer over at Lionsgate and it said, hire more Chad Stahelski. And they said, yes, computer, we will do it. I don't know what's going to come out of Lionsgate and this AI that they have doing their development, but so far it seems like a little bit more of the same. And I don't know if they're right to go in so strongly on Chad Stahelski. We've been wondering for a while why Chad Stahelski wasn't getting more directorial work off of John Wick. We were like, these John Wick movies are so well directed. Why will no other studio hire him? He came in and he did reshoots on Birds of Prey, but, he didn't really get a lot of credit for that, and I think probably he didn't want it after the movie did so poorly. That's right, Vlad. They can change their name to Skynet Studios. Vlad, you're very funny today. That's fantastic. I think Skynet Studios is actually somewhat funny and appealing. I'd be like, at least own it. You're like, yes, all these decisions were made by a computer. And you're like, all right, well, at least if I know that going in. All right. I'm glad you guys like my invest in Chad joke. So yeah, but Lionsgate has said, Chad, we love you, and we want you to feel that this is your home. So they already have a big deal with him to oversee the John Wick universe. Although I don't know how good of a start that's off to. Some of you really liked that ballerina trailer. I disliked it immensely, but let's see how it does in theaters. Ana de Armas is another interesting person who I think, if I wanted to make Sydney Sweeney go in a different direction, I'd say, look at Ana de Armas. Ana de Armas leaned very heavily into the cheesecake routine, and it cost her a lot of female fans. She has a lot of male fans left, but I feel like, that's a little bit of an issue for her. So I'd be like, don't make the same mistake. All right, so, yes. See, I know some of you liked it. I just did not like that, John. I was like, just give me John Wick. I don't need, Jane Wick. It looked like Jane Wick to me, and I did not care for that. All right, so, but Chad Stahelski is very big over at Lionsgate. So he's pitched a new movie called The Professionals. And first off, the hilarious thing about it is that it's actually the first draft of the script was written by Ross Perot's son, who's also named Hunter for some strange reason. And so this movie was written by Hunter Perot. At first you're like, Poirot? Like Agatha Christie? And they're like, no, Perot. So you're like, that's crazy. So he's going to be involved in the film, like they have a red carpet and stuff like that. Everyone's going to have to keep saying, and here's Ross Perot's son. Although Ross Perot is so considering how things have progressed in politics, he's like a little baby in terms of what we're dealing with today. So that's very interesting. All right, then 8711 Productions. That's the company that Chad Stahelski started with David Leitch. And I don't know. I got to tell you, all their movies look exactly the same to me. And I think they've really diluted the pool. I think that John Wick was very unique. However, I feel that all these other movies are so similar that I think that they dilute John Wick, and I think they dilute all the other films. And I think that 87 North has just no variation in what they can do. And it worries me. I feel like this movie, The Professionals, is going to be exactly like all these other films. And then therefore, I feel like I've already seen it. So let's talk about the pitch. What was the pitch that got this sold? That's not a bad pitch. All right, so the pitch was Clue meets John Wick. And John Wick has very bold characters already. Like, part of me feels, I'm like, isn't John Wick in some ways already Clue? But it's going to be, basically the pitch is that they're a house. That's true, Danny, barely an inconvenience. This is reading very much like the pitch. What's the name of that channel again? It's reading a lot like that. I think that's very funny. But yeah, so the situation is that it's going to be a bunch of hired killers pitch meeting. Thank you, Paul. It's a bunch of killers, professional killers, the professionals, who find themselves at an English estate, and one of them gets killed, and so they not only have to figure out who did it, but apparently fight each other while they do. So I'm like, I don't know, that seems like The Gentleman to me. That seems very Guy Ritchie. And Guy Ritchie's probably like, hey, Guy Ritchie's already pretty one-note as it is. He doesn't need more one-noteness. Also, that's funny, Jordan, that you mentioned Knives Out. I think there are too many murder mysteries as well. I think there are way too many murder mysteries that have come out and also hurt that section. So let's see. I mean, to me, I don't know. It seems like this seems so derivative and so many projects that we've already seen that I'm just like, right to digital, man. Although I think the casting would be important. Like, for instance, I thought that the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare was a bad movie from Guy Ritchie. However, because it had Henry Cavill and Alan Ritchson in it, Alan Ritchson hasn't worked for enough time. I'm not sure of his name. It's Alan Ritchson, right? But because they were in the film, it actually ended up doing really well on digital. So if they cast somebody really good in this, like Henry Cavill maybe, because, where's the Highlander thing? Highlander's taken so long to come together. Why don't they go and put Henry Cavill in this? And that's right, they are making a new Clue movie. And as some of you pointed out, Maria, White Lotus is also a whodunit. But, if the casting is strong enough and, it's a lot of beefcake, that's it. Again, if you get the beefcake, it'll do great. If I were a Hollywood producer, I would go write beefcake up on my spirit board for things that I need to have in my movie. I'd be like, I need beefcake in here. So, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this story before we go to the overall Q&A? Dorothy, I don't know who would be Custard Pie. I'm not sure who that would be. Zach Galifianakis? Tenerife says, do a Drew Barrymore and Scream. That's very clever. The person who's murdered, so they don't have to shoot that many days, is a huge star. I like the way you think, Tenerife. You got your business hat on. Oh, I hope it's not like the Expendables, Caliban. That would be a disaster. Why doesn't the Expendables work? Is that beefcake expired? You're like, oh, dusty beefcake. Goat cake. That's funny. Mystic, I'm not sure why Magic Mike didn't. Magic Mike, the first one, was huge. Bubbles, I agree. John Wick was originally really great because it was, I think John Wick was really wonderful because it was unique. And also the hook of, he was just so upset because they killed his dog. I think that was so incredibly relatable, and it was just, it was funny, but also poignant. I think that was a big part of the John Wick success. Denzel says, what's your favorite murder mystery movie? I like a lot of them. I really like White Lotus. But as for a movie, I really like The Last Knives Out. I know a lot of people didn't, but I loved it. I thought it was great. That's right, Leon. His wife was also killed, but I think everybody really focused on the dog. Kelly, I like how you're saying comments from like the first story still. Elpidio says, I'm so sad I've been missing out. Big exams in grad school. Oh, that's okay, Elpidio. Get good grades on your exams. We'll be here when you get back. Oh, another Wanda stan. I'm glad you liked Glass Onion too. Yay, it makes me happy. And that's right, Ray Ray. John Wick was an extremely inexpensive movie, and they're still relatively inexpensive. And I think this one will too. Chad Stahelski knows how to have a responsible budget. I mean, the 87 11 films all seem exactly the same. Nightcat check, but at the same time, they're also very inexpensive, which is why they keep making them anyway. All right, it's getting kind of late. Let's go to the overall Q&A. All righty, here we go. 10 minutes. We'll just call it 5:30 for me, so till 5:40. Hey, Tanya. Art Lover says, are you going to review the Complete Unknown trailer? I am not. Well, I'm sure I'll see the movie at some point. Art Lover, so let's see here. John Camara says, you didn't mention The Apprentice coming out in this weekend's movie map. I forgot about that. It wasn't listed in where I checked to get that information, and so it slipped through. Let's see how it does. I think I think people who are interested in that kind of a story are not going to like the negativity about the movie, and I think people who would maybe like the negativity about the movie don't want any more of that. So I'm curious to see who the audience for that might be. Hey, Sue says, what type of humor makes you laugh? Oh, I like all kinds of stuff. I like to laugh. It's fun. Steve says, have you seen Gladiator 2 and will you review it? Oh, I'm going to review the heck out of Gladiator 2. I feel bad that I have only like two major movies coming up. Like there's no big movie this weekend. I will review piece by piece. But I feel really bad that it's just really tough. So I'll cover all the big movies. Wicked, Gladiator 2, Moana, Sonic 3, Mufasa, all that stuff. Keith, I love you with your free membership. I'm glad you got gifted a membership. Jordan says, did you see the interview with Anne Hathaway resurfacing where she was quite dry and rude to the interviewer? Who happened to be the same Blake interviewer? I don't know. Sometimes people have a bad day. This new trend of like, oh, you did something bad once means you're obviously a horrible person. I mean, don't throw stones if you're in a glass house, and I think we all live in glass houses. I Heart Movie says, will you be seeing Saturday Night? I'm going to see it at some point. I'm not, hey, that's Ella, right? Ella, from yesterday's stream. Oh yes, a pleasure being on your stream yesterday. But I'm not sure when I'm going to see it. I'm having trouble finding a theater that I want to go to. Some theaters in New York City are sketchy as hell. Yeah, Paul, I'll do full coverage on Venom 3. I'll do any big movie gets the full treatment. Trailers are a little tough depending on the studio, but big movies get the full package. Richard, I'm glad you're enjoying English Teacher. I think it's a charming show and very funny. That makes me laugh a lot. That's a very funny show. Gorilla says, would it be better if future superhero movies to be critically acclaimed but modest hits or to have bad Rotten Tomato scores but good at the box office? It's always important to make money, particularly for those kind of films because they cost so much to make. The most important thing for blockbusters is that they make money. Oh, J. Jonah Jameson says, I forgot to mention Craven. I don't think Craven's going to be a big hit, but I will, of course, cover Craven as well. Blair says, will you be seeing Smile? I do. I have my critic screening is actually next week, early next week. So I'll be reviewing Smile 2 for sure. Denzel says, what do you hope to see in the upcoming Agatha episode? I hope that like some big developments. You know, I think that the last episode was very moving, but I want Agatha to continually move ahead aggressively each episode. I don't want it to ever seem like it's treading water. Tanya, I'm glad you like the dusty beefcake joke. Lloyd, do I have any thoughts on Nosferatu? I really liked the Viking one, The Northman. I liked his Viking movie quite a bit. And I'm excited for Nosferatu. I think it's hilarious. It comes out for Christmas. But I'm looking forward to that film. You know, I like scary Victorian stuff. I'm watching Interview with the Vampire. I'm going through it so quickly. I'm already on season 2. I'll do a mini review when I finish it. They switch actresses for Claudia, although I think the new actress is doing a nice job. Ben Svarog says, do you think the original Fox X-Men characters can still appear in Secret Wars? I think they got to move forward at this point. Like, we got to move forward to getting new X-Men. I think that was their moment, and they didn't get it. Danny, I don't like reading. I like reading. I don't like reading long-form content because I have trouble moderating it, regulating it, and I become very antisocial. And I mean, it's just like I do with binging a show. I'm like, must finish. So I'm really bad at that. I think like the last time I read a book was like this book on the CIA, which was fascinating. But I remember looking up one time being like, I haven't talked to someone, and I brought it on vacation. And I was like, I'm missing my vacation for this book. And so I was like, I got to only read short form. But I did buy the Disney War book because I liked that Bob Chapek article so much in the New York Times. And many of you pointed out it was the same author. And so I did buy the Disney War book, but I haven't started it yet. B. Brown says, is there any recent video game adaptation news? Lots of developments went quiet as of late. I have, well, obviously they're working on Super Mario Brothers 2. I haven't heard anything too much new, B. Brown. That's an interesting point. But I'm afraid I have no news for you on that front. Leo, I'm not sure when I'll cover Anora. I do plan to watch it at some point. I'm going to eventually, as a Critics' Choice member, I'm eventually going to get screeners. And so a lot of these smaller movies, I'm like, like a friend of mine who also gets screeners was like, I'm just going to wait for the screener. And I'm like, I can see, that's not a bad idea. Kareem, there's been no news about Mr. and Miss Season 2, except for the fact that it's supposed to happen. I'm a little sad that it's an anthology series and they're not going to continue with the leads from last time. That makes me lose a lot of interest in it, to be honest with you. Senior Lullaby, I thought Penguin Episode 3 was fantastic. I loved it. I loved it so much. That was the episode that made me really like the show. Although I have to say, the other night when the Steelers, I was over at my parents' house for the Steelers-Cowboys game, and it was delayed on account of that torrential downpour. And so, we had our dinner, and we wanted to maybe eat dinner. And so my parents were like, what else can we watch? And I was like, the next episode of Penguin's about to go up. And they had watched the first two. And my mom turned to me and she said, I find that show trite and the characters derivative. And I was like, my God, and people think I'm harsh. If only they knew where I got it from. But I do think that's, again, I think that she wouldn't have felt that way if Penguin was a binge. I think Penguin being week to week is tough. Hey, Saul. That's right, not Rodney. Wicked tickets go on sale tomorrow. I think they did that because the Gladiator 2 tickets just went on sale. Yeah, right to Guy Ty? I can't get upset with her because even though I loved the show, because I do feel like that's a fair criticism. Like we are like, it is like every gangster show we've ever seen. And I think if you don't appreciate the comics to be like, but no, it's in Gotham, well, then it does just seem like more of the same. It seems a lot like House of Gucci, as I said in my review. So I can't get upset about it. Hey, Devin. I even said that to her. I was like, that's somewhat fair. I was like, I liked it, but I understand it. Fran likes, hey, Fran says, have you heard anything on the Atomic Blonde sequel? I'm still not giving up on it. That was a wonderful movie. I like that too. I thought Charlize Theron did a wonderful job, but I haven't heard anything about it. I think it's been so long, I think it might take a long time at this point. I'm glad to see a number of you like both Claudias as well. Let's see here. Oh, Doc Hayes. I'll definitely review Sinners. I really like Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan. Let's see here. Amy, Severance is coming back. It's coming back. They had a lot of problems, not only with the strikes, but also horrible creative problems behind the scenes, but it's coming. Rodney, I haven't heard anything about another Snow White trailer, but I believe it'll debut in front of Moana or Mufasa. Probably Moana. I think Disney, a lot of times studios want to put their trailer in front of another one of their movies to try and get you to go see that movie. So I think that's what they're going to do. And it's the same audience for Moana 2 and Snow White. I liked the teaser, except for the dwarves, which again I told you were nightmare fuel. But otherwise, it had that wedding cake quality that I love so much for these kind of movies. I was like, it's so beautiful. It's a Thomas Kincaid painting brought to life. Hey, Fran. Yeah, Fran, say hi. Let's see here. All right, I got 1 minute left. Christo, I think that the Wild Robot will help Lupita in that she's had 2 hits back to back. Well, A Quiet Place 2 didn't end up being a huge box office performer, but it had a great opening. And so I think that, I think that she's in a good place. I don't think she's been like supercharged, but I think, she'll definitely continue to get work. Carolina says that she's not sold on Rachel Zegler as Snow White. Well, that's the thing. You don't have to be sold on it. I think she looks very pretty in the movie. Rachel Zegler's very pretty. And I think that she looks like she's doing an okay job. I don't know what the likability factor is on Rachel Zegler. I think all of her movies have not done well. So part of me feels maybe that's an issue. I don't have an issue with her. But to me, I'm going for the whole package of Snow White. That's all I'm interested in the movie as a whole. And I think, as Rodney's saying, I think Gal Gadot as the evil queen is going to go a long way. The evil queen is what really sells that. And also, obviously, you have the war in the Middle East, which is going to be an issue for, Gal Gadot. Bye, art lover. Oh, it's 5:40. All right, let me do shout-outs. I haven't done shout-outs in a little bit. Where are you? What are you doing? So I can say hi. See, a number of you do take issue with Gal Gadot. I think that Snow White has, unfortunately, a lot of political issues wrapped up in that movie now. Rodney's on the bus ride home from school. I love that, Rodney. Let's see here. Steve Quintanilla is walking his dog in sunny Los Angeles. That's right, Ace. Hunger Games did pretty well. You're right. But she wasn't. I think that's because it was, again, an ensemble. And so that's a good sign for Snow White. If, Gal Gadot doesn't torpedo it. Giancarlo says Rachel Zegler is currently on Broadway with Kit Connor. I wonder how that's doing. That's good casting. Griffin Hammersmith says, hi, Grace, just finished a 5-mile run. Good for you. Oh, Dan says, prepping for the hurricane here in Orlando. My first one, and I'm a little nervous. Oh, Dan, we are thinking of you. I know Orlando, luckily, is on the other side of the state, so you're not going to get the brunt of it. But really heed instructions, and, if you have to go to a shelter, go. Do what you need to do. Let's see here. MM92 is grocery shopping. Danny's enjoying his day off in Guatemala. Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Danny, because I know sometimes you can't make it because of work these days. Another Wanda Stan, thanks for keeping me company while I bake bread. Oh, that's such a cool skill. I tried to bake bread during the pandemic. It looked bad, but it still tasted good. Tepe is snuggling with their cat, Corky. Oh, meow. Hey, and Anna says, hi, Grace. I'm in Indiana working on homework eating pistachios. Oh, that's great. Say hi to Timothy or Timo, right? Timo for us? Let's see here. Nick Hart is decorating for Halloween in North Carolina. Oh, I hope you're good. I know you just had a hurricane as well. Mish says, thought I'd do some work while watching the stream. 11:40 p.m. in Cape Town, South Africa. All over the globe. Let's see here. Astronomy 360 says, working on a script for a video tomorrow for my channel and studying for an exam tomorrow. Oh, you're busy. I love it. Alex B is going to bed in Germany. Oh, I don't know how to say goodnight in German, or else I would wish you a good night in German. RJ says, just got off work, about to head to the gym. Let's see here. And Slade says, I'm in Kentucky, but thinking about my family in Tampa. Yeah, stay safe out there, everybody. Jay Rez is also preparing for the hurricane. Stay safe. And Davey says, about to cook salmon for dinner. Well, Leroy is making homemade spaghetti tonight after winning $300. Did you win like $300? Oh, Guten Nacht. Good night. That sounds like Guten Tag. Oh, is that good day? Daniel C. says, at work, staring at a computer screen in Covina, California while listening to you. I'm glad we can keep you company at work. And Aided Buffalo is eating jumbo chicken nuggets with Mexican rice. Oh, that sounds tasty. Tonight for my dinners, turkey burgers. While I watch more Interview with the Vampire. I'm having turkey burgers with American cheese. And then also I bought myself some True Fruit, which is frozen fruit, in this case the raspberries with dark chocolate and white chocolate on them. They are delicious, and they sell out all the time. If you see True Fruit, buy it, because it might not be there tomorrow. Oh, Rodney. Yes, but my Agatha breakdowns, I'm not sure if I'm going to do them at night still, because I haven't gotten the episodes in advance, and it will take too long, so I might switch to morning breakdowns, so we'll have to see. Oh, Blair's had it. Kay Walton, I think it's spelled a little like that. I think it's spelled that way. Just Google True Fruit. It's in a blue container, like a blue bag, a light blue bag in the frozen section. So good. Hey, Matt in Michigan. Oh, Blair Wraith says the coconut ones and the strawberry ones are awesome. I've heard the strawberry ones are very good. And November, Christine likes the chocolate-covered blueberries. Oh, I've only been eating the raspberries, but maybe I should try some other ones. But I like them so much, I've only been getting those. Oh, Sarah likes them too. Oh, I'm glad to see we're all on the True Fruit wagon there. Mystic says morning breakdowns are better for us on the other side of the globe. Oh, really? I would think the night ones would be better. And John Camara, is that an internship listening from? Oh, Denzel, I might wear a different witch's hat, but I'll still wear a witch's hat. I think I have another one, which I think might be better for daytime. I have to see. And Haunted Autumn is ordering some True Fruit. We did it! All right, well, I better get going. Thank you so much. There will be another live stream tomorrow because, I want to make sure I have 3 this week. So the next live stream will be tomorrow. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. I had a wonderful time as always, and I will see you tomorrow. All right, bye, everybody. Bye-bye.